He destroyed everything I had left of my mother, and all they did was laugh. But I was about to show them that payback is a garden best served cold. My garden wasn't just a patch of dirt with some flowers. It was my sanctuary, a living memory of my mother. She had taught me everything I knew about gardening. We spent countless hours together, her hands guiding mine, planting the very first rose bush that now stood as tall as me. After she passed, that garden became my connection to her. Every petal, every leaf, was a piece of her legacy. When my ex-wife Clara and I divorced, the house was mine. But she moved in right across the street with her new husband, Mark. It was an uncomfortable arrangement, but I tried to be civil. That civility ended the day Mark started his campaign against my garden. It began subtly. A tire track here. A crushed flower bed there. At first, I thought it was an accident. I approached them calmly, explaining how much the garden meant to me. It's just some dirt and weeds, man. The accidents became more frequent and more deliberate. Every other morning, I'd wake up to find a new path of destruction. My prized tulips flattened. The lavender bushes my mother and I planted, ripped from the ground. Each time I'd confront them, and each time they'd dismiss me with the same condescending laughter. It felt like they were tearing down my memories one plant at a time. There's no proof he's doing it on purpose. I felt helpless, watching my sanctuary, my connection to my mother, being systematically dismantled by a man who found joy in my pain. The emotional toll was immense. I started having trouble sleeping, dreading what I'd find in the morning. My work suffered. The garden, once a source of peace, was now a source of constant anxiety and heartbreak. I knew I couldn't let them win. This wasn't just about flowers anymore. It was about defending my mother's memory. If you enjoy emotional and dramatic revenge stories, please subscribe for more. The final straw came on a Saturday morning. Mark had driven his massive truck all over my front yard, churning the earth into a muddy, barren wasteland. The rose bush, the ones my mother had planted with her own hands, were snapped and broken, their thorns scattered like tears on the ruined soil. Everything was gone. A wave of cold fury washed over me, eclipsing the grief. They were standing on their porch, coffee mugs in hand, watching me. They didn't even try to hide their amusement. That was it. No more Mr. Nice Guy. Instead, I went to the hardware store. I bought the strongest steel rebar I could find, a set of high-definition, night vision cameras, and a motion-activated alarm system that was loud enough to wake the entire neighborhood. I spent the rest of the weekend working. Into these trenches I set the steel rebar, angled sharply towards the street, and buried just enough so that only a few inches of their sharpened tips poked through the soil. Then, I carefully covered them with a thin layer of turf and grass seed, making them completely invisible. Next, I installed the cameras, hiding them in the trees and under the eaves of my house, ensuring every angle of my yard was covered. Finally, I set up the motion sensors, linking them to the piercingly loud alarm system I had placed in my garage, with the speakers pointing directly at the street. My new garden wasn't made of flowers, it was a fortress of righteous indignation. As I finished my work, I felt a grim sense of satisfaction. The trap was set. All I had to do was wait for the pest to return. I went to bed that night with a strange sense of calm. Around 2 a.m, a flicker of movement on my monitor woke me. It was Mark's truck, its headlights off, creeping slowly towards my curb. He was trying to be stealthy, but my cameras saw everything. He lined up his truck, aiming for the center of my lawn, a smug look on his face visible, even in the grainy night vision. He revved the engine, ready to deliver the finishing blow. Then, he hit the gas. The sound that followed was not the crunch of soft earth and delicate flowers. It was a series of loud, violent pops, followed by the screech of metal on metal. His truck lurched forward a few feet, and then stopped dead. Its front end sinking as both front tires deflated instantly. He had driven directly onto my hidden spikes. The moment his truck stopped, the motion sensors kicked in. Blaring sirens and flashing strobe lights erupted from my garage, shattering the quiet of the night. Lights flicked on in houses up and down the street. Mark's smug expression vanished, replaced by pure panic. He tried to reverse, but his tires were shredded, wrapped around the rebar. He was stuck. He gunned the engine, but all he got was the tortured squeal of spinning rims against steel. He jumped out of the truck and saw the spikes impaling his tires. He let out a howl of rage and disbelief, kicking at the undamaged parts of his truck before realizing half the neighborhood was now watching him from their windows. He started screaming for help, his voice laced with panic. That was my cue. I calmly picked up my phone and dialed 911. "Yes, I'd like to report a man attempting to vandalize my property," I said, my voice steady. "He seems to have had some car trouble. You can't miss it." My alarm is on. Within minutes, 2 police cars arrived, their flashing lights adding to the chaotic scene. The officers found Mark, frantic and sputtering, trying to explain that my lawn had attacked his truck. I walked out onto my porch, phone in hand. "Evening, officers," I said calmly. "This man has been destroying my property for weeks." Luckily tonight, I caught it all on camera. I showed them the footage. Crystal clear video of Mark deliberately turning off his lights, lining up his truck, and driving onto my lawn. They saw his smug smile turn to panic. They saw it all. The officers looked from the video to Mark, then to the shredded tires and the spikes. One of them turned to Mark, his expression grim. "Sir, you're under arrest for vandalism and destruction of property." Clara came running out of her house, drawn by the commotion. She saw Mark in handcuffs and her jaw dropped. "What is going on?" she shrieked. An officer patiently explained the situation, detailing the charges, the fines, and the fact that Mark would also be responsible for compensating me for all the damages past and present. The color drained from her face. She looked at the destroyed truck, then at me standing on my porch, and I think for the first time she understood. The laughter was gone. The next few weeks were a blur of legal proceedings. Mark was found guilty. The compensation he had to pay was substantial, covering not just the cost of a brand new professional landscaping job, but also the value of the rare plants he had destroyed, and damages for emotional distress. It was enough to transform my yard into something truly spectacular. With the money they were forced to pay me, I hired the best landscape artists in the state. They installed a beautiful stone walkway, a small pond with a waterfall, and planted even more magnificent flowers and trees than I had before. My mother's rose bushes were replaced with even rarer, more beautiful varieties. My garden was reborn, more beautiful and vibrant than ever, a testament not just to my mother's memory, but to my own resilience. Every morning now I sit on my porch with my coffee, looking at my magnificent garden. And across the street, I see Clara and Mark looking at it too. They have to see it every single day. A beautiful, thriving reminder of the day their arrogance cost them dearly. They never laugh anymore. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more Reddit-style revenge stories.